So you want to fly the attack helicopter. Maybe you've seen videos online of people getting 200 kill games in this thing, and then you go to fly it yourself and you get absolutely steamrolled. With a good duo, the attack heli can be an absolute menace to battlefield lobbies. However, if you don't know what you're doing, you won't last 5 seconds. In today's video, I'm going to be covering ideal loadouts, settings, and then PC and controller key bindings for the attack helicopter. And I'm also going to be covering both the pilot role and the gunner role, so that no matter which position you're playing in, you can always maximize your efficiency in the attack helicopter. Hey!
Nice, Kami, nice! Clip!
Nice. Okay, so let's first go over the vehicle control settings. Bear in mind that most of this is just going to be personal preference. Stick to what you feel comfortable with. One thing you should definitely have turned off is the helicopter control assists. The sooner you get used to flying without that, the better. Next we have the PC key bindings. You'll pretty much want to copy these. I know they can be a bit weird for muscle memory because they aren't anywhere near close to what the default controls are. But trust me when I say this, all of the pro pilots will pretty much be using these controls. To keep this brief, essentially what we're doing here is we're making the left and right movements of the helicopter feel as if you were aiming a rifle as infantry, hence why this control scheme is referred to as rifle aim. Next, for controller players, head over to your helicopter control settings. Most of this is just going to be personal preference. These are the settings I find comfortable flying with. Gyro aiming is something you should definitely experiment with if you haven't already. Essentially, you can level the playing field with PC players in terms of accuracy and precision because of how it works, so I would highly advise you look into it. Then you want to go over to your helicopter control mapping. You'll want to copy these if you haven't already got your own pre-existing set of controls. These, from what I can feel, are the most optimal controls for flying the helicopter. Again though, this is all personal preference. These are just my controls. You don't have to copy them. If you have something that you prefer to use, stick with that. I would just like to say now, I do not fly on controller as my main input. I am always a keyboard and mouse player for most of my time. I learned how to fly on controller for the purpose of making these guides. So just take that, with a pinch of salt. I'm not a professional controller player. Okay, so now let's get on to loadouts. So for the primary weapon, a lot of people tend to use the aim-guided rocket launchers. I do not like these, but the reason being is because I am so used to previous Battlefield games where I've had to account for my momentum and aiming and all of that on my own. It is just muscle memory. So when I use the aim-guided rockets, all of that muscle memory kicks in and it completely screws me over. So for that reason, I don't bother with them. Next, we have light rockets. Now, in my opinion, if you are just starting out, this is probably the option you should pick. You get loads of room for error if you miss, they shoot really quickly, and they absolutely rip apart anything you look at. They still do reasonable damage to tanks if you hit them all, and they are very good against air vehicles as well. And now we have my personal preference, the heavy rockets. I like these because one, they are high skill, high reward, and I absolutely love anything that is high skill, high reward. Two, the amount of damage they do to tanks is amazing. If you hit all of your rockets, you are looking at around 600 to 700 damage. And then three, if you hit your rockets, even just one rocket against an attack helicopter, it does that thing where it puts them into a spin. And that is absolutely deadly against an attack helicopter in an air-to-air engagement. Once again though, they are high skill, so if you're just starting out, maybe stick to the light rockets first, get used to them. I would like to say, if you're serious about getting good with the attack helicopter, stick to either the light or heavy rockets instead of aim-guided rockets. And the reason is because the skills you'll develop from using both the light and the heavy rockets are skills that will carry over into every Battlefield game, whereas the aim-guided rockets, you don't necessarily develop much and they could get nerfed overnight and become useless. Next we have your secondary weapon slot, and in my opinion the only real professional choice here is the aim-guided launcher. If you're a bit on the casual side, I completely understand if you want to stick to the anti-air rockets, but I will say tow missiles in this game are the easiest they have ever been in a Battlefield franchise. I can't stress that enough. It is so intuitive with this game compared to previous Battlefield games. You saw it in the earlier clip, and you can use this thing to snipe helicopters from across the map, and It is very easy compared to previous Battlefield games. So if you're perhaps a Battlefield veteran, if you found it hard on Battlefield 4, try it on this game. I promise you'll find it so much easier. And then to add on to it, you can also use it against tanks, and if you time it right, you can one-pass enemy vehicles with this thing. Next we have your equipment slot, and this is a no-brainer. Go for the emergency repair, and the reason why is because if you take a mobility hit, you can press the emergency repair button and that mobility hit will go away, and that is an absolute saving grace in this game, where if you go into a mobility hit and you don't have this, you are dead. You are as good as dead in 99% of cases. So this thing is the absolute must-have compared to its counterpart. Next for the upgrade, the only choice to make here is thermal optics. None of the other three options here are worth it, in my opinion, over thermal optics. The value that thermal optics adds to you and your gunner, unbelievable. It is an absolute must-have. Your gunner will thank you, and you'll thank yourself after you see yourself with 90 assists at the end of the game. Alright, now that the loadout's done, let's get on to how to fly the attack helicopter. So go to the portal test range, I'll put the code on screen, and what you want to do is turn on the buildings, and then start practicing aiming with the rockets. Now, if you want to practice even harder, pick the heavy rockets. You don't necessarily need to use them in the real game afterwards, but the heavy rockets require the most skill, and therefore if you learn how to use them, you're going to learn how to use the light rockets as well. Now, my first tip when it comes to aiming with the rockets is do not fire the entire salvo all at once. Okay, because the heavy rockets, you already get 4 rockets to begin with in one salvo, and you burn through that very quickly if you're dumping 4 missiles onto one soldier. So don't fire them all off in one salvo, take your time when aiming them. Another thing to be aware of is which side your rockets are coming out from. So say you shoot one rocket and it comes out of the right rocket pod. Well, now you need to aim in accordance to the left rocket pod. And this is where using your on-screen indicator is so crucial to you, because it will help you account for your momentum and which direction you're swaying in, and also which direction you're going up and down in. So in this portal experience, I would recommend you practice hitting infantry with just one rocket, because if you're dumping all 4 on them, it's a waste. And then I would also try and practice landing 4 rockets onto a tank, and then eventually air vehicles as well. Now, if you're a gunner, there is no real reason to practice on bots. Honestly, the best way to get gunner experience is to just play actual games. Now, moving on to tow missiles. If you plan on practicing tow missiles, honestly, I don't think anything beats practicing this in just actual games and just getting experience that way. But if you want to practice it in this arena, practice it from as far away as you physically can. The further away, the better. The more you challenge yourself, the better you'll get long term. Because it's so easy to hit. I mean, you can see the bots, they don't know how to really maneuver, they don't do anything. You can turn on the ability for them to shoot back, they still barely move, and it's such an easy target regardless. So if you are going to practice using tow missiles on this, do it from a good range to the point where you are challenging yourself. Okay, so let's go over how to survive a battlefield match then. Now, first things first, if you don't have a gunner, you are severely crippling your ability to not only survive, but also to help your team. Your gunner is going to be doing all of the work. If you haven't got one, join Discord servers. There's the official Battlefield Discord server, although I think if you go in there and ask for a gunner, you'll probably just get a bunch of whiny bitches telling you that the attack helicopter's overpowered. So perhaps look for more, air vehicle-based Discord servers. And then on the other hand, if you do find a good pilot or a good gunner, ask in the chat, just ask, hey, is anybody here down for attack helicopter gunnery? Somebody will spawn on you and somebody will come and help you. And the biggest thing here is you want to be able to communicate with your gunner. Being able to communicate with your gunner, even if they aren't necessarily the best shot, being able to communicate with them helps drastically compared to having a gunner that can't speak. However, if you're a gunner and you aren't able to communicate with your pilot, your eyes need to be forward at all times unless you are already shooting at something. But if you've lost track of that target for even a little bit too long, eyes forward again. Your eyes should always be forward. I cannot stress this enough, because your pilot might be looking at something that he wants you to kill and you're sat distracted by some butterfly all the way 5 bases away trying to get 1 kill, and your pilot's sat there having a stroke because a helicopter's right in front of him and you aren't shooting at it. So if you can't communicate with them, keep your eyes forward whenever possible. So now that that's all out of the way, when you start a conquest match, I've said this before with my other guides, and if you haven't seen those, please consider checking them out. But the first thing you need to do is look for the enemy air vehicles. That's your first priority. You need to know where they are, and especially the enemy helicopters, because if they catch you off guard, you are dead. You have to kill them first. And then once you have killed them, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds before they then respawn and start to look for you. Now, the way I like to think about this is, once you kill the enemy attack helicopter, you have maybe 3, 4, if 5 passes on enemy infantry if you're lucky. Now, obviously, this is dependent on the map you're playing on, and also dependent on what mode you're playing on, but generally speaking, subconsciously, you will get this eventually. Just in your head, you'll naturally begin to get into that rhythm of, okay, I've done that many passes on the infantry, and now I better worry about the enemy chopper, and so on. You could choose to time it, and a lot of pro pilots do. They time it mentally, roughly, when the enemy chopper will respawn, and they're ready for it when it does. But the end goal here is, if you think the enemy chopper's spawned, do not start another attack run on the infantry until that enemy chopper is dead. Because if you do, you are just going to get interrupted midway through your attack run, and if they get the jump on you, easy kill. Now, speaking of attack runs, let's talk about how to do attack runs on infantry. So as usual, with any air vehicle, below radar is your best friend. Whenever possible, try to be below radar. It's just going to save you time. However, when you're attacking infantry, if you stay below radar, you will die to an RPG at some point or another, because you're a bigger target, and no offense to the attack helicopter, I'm sure it tries, but it is like a whale when it comes to trying to turn. So don't ever try anything stupid with the attack helicopter. If you fly low, you will get absolutely obliterated. Even now, after the RPG's been tweaked a little bit, it's still very easy to hit an attack helicopter. So, my general routine when it comes to doing an attack run is to 1, stay in cover as you approach your enemy, and then 2, when you're ready to pop up, you pop up as soon as possible. You start climbing and you just do circles around the enemy base. Give your gunner the best angles possible, because like I said, they're the ones that are going to be doing all the work. If you have a specific target in mind, say for example a tank, then of course you're going to start using your weapons to join in, but ultimately your gunner is going to be doing a lot of the damage, and you need to give them those angles. And your main priority as an attack helicopter is going to be to take out the armoured vehicles, because that is ultimately what is going to win a battlefield match. So there are plenty of routines for when it comes to taking down armoured vehicles. However, the best ones tend to just be a little bit of a mix of you and your gunner. So what I like to do is, I like to open up with a tow missile, and when that hits, I then open up with my 4 heavy rockets. Now that leaves a tank 1 shot to just the guided missile from a gunner. But even then, the gunner's main cannon does more than enough in a single burst to finish off any tanks. So with that knowledge, you can effectively just one-pass every armoured vehicle in the game. Now the next thing, because you're an attack helicopter, and because as before, as I said, this thing turns like a whale, you need to use your momentum to your advantage. Generally speaking, if you stop to turn around, you are risking a lot, because all it takes is one guy who can take advantage of the fact that you are now losing all of your speed to do that turn, and that's it, you're dead. You're going to get RPG'd out of the sky. So use your momentum with you. Like I said, when I'm done with my attack run, I will transition into a below radar state in the same line. I don't try and turn around unless I absolutely have to, or if I'm kill greedy. But like I said, if you turn around, you're an easy target, and a lot of my deaths have been simply because I pushed it, I pushed my luck, I tried to turn around because I was greedy for 1 extra kill, and then somebody blows me out the sky. So use your momentum to your advantage, get out of the combat zone, and keep all of your speed. Now, when you do have to turn, you want to be able to do it fast, and this helps not only for just getting back into the combat zone, but also if you get caught off guard. Now, if you are turning fast, you want to try and use that momentum to help you get going in the other direction. So I'll put it on screen now. When you're in Portal, just practice this. Practice turning fast and try and see how fast you can turn. And when you are turning, like I said, try not to be predictable, because good engineers will know what you're trying to do and they will predict you. So try to fly unpredictably. Like when I'm turning, I don't just turn in the same altitude. I like to mix it up a bit. I like to change my altitude, maybe go up instead of down, or down instead of up, and so on. Just be unpredictable when you're flying. Now, it goes without saying that flare management, as always, is a big part in air vehicle gameplay. So if you don't have flares, if you've used them, the first thing you should be doing is hitting the deck, number one, getting below radar, and number two, just slowly transitioning out of the combat area, because it isn't worth being nearby if you haven't got flares. Now, I say this in my other guide videos, but the Igla is bugged. It's been bugged since the start of Season 3, and it's not got any word. They haven't even acknowledged it in Season 4, and there's no plans on fixing it. So right now, my verdict is, because you're a bigger vehicle than the little bird, the bigger vehicle you're in, the more likely it is to go through flares and hit. So you absolutely need to flare early. It's just, I hate saying it because it's bad practice. In any other Battlefield game, I would be telling you to do the exact opposite. Flare as late as possible, wait as long as possible, because you don't need to waste it until they've shot their missile. But if you do that in this game, you're just flipping a coin. So if you think they're close to you, which in most cases they probably are, because the Igla has to be line of sight based. If they don't have line of sight to you, the missile won't keep tracking. If they're close to you, flare early. Don't let them get the rocket off, because if it goes off, it will most likely go through and hit you. And the problem with this going through flares is, you've wasted your flares now, and it still hit you. And if you're in a bad position, guess what? Another missile's coming your way, and now you genuinely cannot do anything about it. So it's better to flare it early and use that time to get out of there and recircle around and come back later. Now, when you are about to get hit, and it's inevitable, you'll get hit by one of these eventually, it's just a matter of time, spam the emergency repair button. And ideally, you'll want to be spamming this every time you think you're about to go into a spin out state. And this is the state where your controls get all weird and locked up and you can't really move, and the game tries to put you into this uncontrollable spin. Spam the emergency repair button, because if you catch it right, you'll end up not feeling it. You just won't feel it because you've spammed the button. And it has saved me many times doing this. Now for this portion of the video, I'd just like to list off some dedicated gunner tips. The first one is that the gunner also gets access to air radar. So if you think your pilot hasn't seen something, tell them. Just tell them straight up, hey, there's an attack chopper that's just spawned. Hey, little bird's just spawned. The more you communicate with your pilot, and vice versa, the better your experience will be in the attack helicopter for both of you. Now another thing, make sure your main gun is always reloaded, and that's 12 bullets inside of it. Apparently this might be a problem on consoles, and this is a glitch that comes back every couple months, but sometimes you just cannot press the reload button. It just won't work. It doesn't reload the gun. So if that's the case, just empty the gun when you're out of combat. Empty it out. Whatever's left in there, just empty out and let it reload. Now, if you're a gunner and you're communicating with your pilot, a lot of gunners, they'll lock onto an enemy tank early. The problem with this is, if it's a tank and they're using active protection, you're going to end up screwing over your pilot when they're shooting their rockets. So if you're communicating with each other, maybe think about letting your pilot shoot their tow missile and their rockets first, and then you lock on afterwards. Because it means the tank cannot use their APS, or they won't react if the chopper is shooting their rockets at them, because you don't get a lock-on warning when there's a tow missile coming at you, and you don't get a lock-on warning when there's heavy rockets hitting you. You do get a lock-on warning when you're locking onto them with the AGM. So just keep that in mind. Don't make a tank dump their countermeasures early. If you've got the element of surprise, use it, exploit that. And now I'm going to conclude with some final notes and general advice when it comes to learning this thing. Now, the attack helicopter is a hated vehicle. If you start doing well in this thing, people will want you dead, and if they know what they're doing, they very easily can have you dead. You need to accept that in the attack helicopter, it's inevitable. Somebody will get a lucky shot on you eventually. The sooner or later you figure that out, the better you'll play, because most people, they play too passive. I see a lot of teammates that just sit in their base and shoot rockets from their own base. They're safe there, yeah, but they aren't helping their team at all. So you need to get over the fact that you will die. It's inevitable. This thing's a whale. It's not hard to hit at all, especially with somebody with mild competence when it comes to using the aim-guided launchers. It really isn't hard, and you shouldn't feel down on yourself if somebody gets a hit on you. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, then please consider checking out my channel. I have guides for other air vehicles on there. My most recent one being the Little Bird guide, which I know is a very infamously hard vehicle to fly. So if you're interested, please consider checking that out. Otherwise, that's going to be all. Thank you for watching. Consider subscribing if you've made it this far, and I'll see you all in the next video.